Hello, everyone. I am Amar Shamos, the project coordinator for the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma. In the light of the World Humanitarian Week, we are hosting instructors from the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma to share with you an inside perspective on the courses of the diploma and their importance. The Humanitarian Leadership Diploma consists of 8 online asynchronous courses that aim to enhance the knowledge and skills of humanitarian practitioners and equip them with the proper tools to address humanitarian disasters. Our first speaker for the day is Dr. Shawky Amine Eddine. Dr. Amine Eddine is a medical doctor with special interest in pre-hospital care, healthcare quality management, and disaster management. He has served as an emergency medical technician in the Lebanese Red Cross since 2007 and as head of station for the Moore Emergency Medical Service Station. He is currently acting as Lebanese Red Cross Director for Learning and Development, Assistant EMS Director for Training and Quality, and COVID-19 Response Coordinator. Dr. Amine Eddine has commanded multiple crises, including Lebanon fires in 2019, Lebanon floods of 2019, protests of 2019 and 2020, COVID-19 outbreak 2020, and the Beirut port explosion in 2020. Dr. Amine Eddine developed and delivered 2 courses of the diploma, which are mediation and negotiation in crisis settings and disaster management leading the humanitarian response. Dr. Amine Eddine, it's good to have you with us on this conversation. And as an instructor to 2 of the diploma courses, I would firstly like to ask you, how can one benefit from the humanitarian leadership diploma?
Hello, Amar, and thank you for hosting me with you today. So when we talk about any crisis management or any disaster management setting, any humanitarian responder needs to be equipped with a set of skills, knowledge, and attitudes that allow him or her to be able to respond adequately as a humanitarian. What's so special about the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma is that it equips those who participate or those who attend the courses with these different sets of skills. So it covers all the different aspects of humanitarian response, starting from the early phases of preparedness and planning, moving to the response itself, to the recovery and mitigation. And in order to be able to respond to these different aspects of any crisis management, and in order to be able to set and build up any humanitarian response, you need specific sets of skills. Some are related to planning, to project management, to financial learning, to monitoring and evaluation, in addition to some soft skills such as communication, leadership skills, mediation skills, negotiation skills. And all these different aspects are covered throughout the different courses that are offered by the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma.
Great. And from your point of view, how do you see that the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma, HLD, is different and unique from any other diploma?
Look, on the market, there are different diplomas that try to assist those who work in non-governmental organization. What's so special about the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma is that it specifically works and addresses the humanitarian aspect of the humanitarian work. So it covers topics related, for example, to the international humanitarian law, to human rights law, and many other topics. More importantly is the way the diploma is delivered and the people who are delivering the diploma, so who are delivering the courses. So the way the diploma is delivered is set in a way that allows people to do a lot of reflections. It takes a lot of cases from the region that are contextualized to fit the place where we live in. It's based on examples of crises, disasters that took place in our region that participants can actually relate to and can actually might even remember. So most of the cases are contextualized. In addition to that, the people who are delivering the diploma are people who have been working in the humanitarian field for a long period of time, who have accumulated a lot of experience and knowledge managing disasters, crises, and humanitarian issues within the region. In addition to that, the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma, and mainly I'm going to talk about the two courses that I deliver in this diploma. They are so realistic. So it doesn't feature the humanitarian word as la vie en rose. So it actually highlights the challenges, the dilemmas, the gaps that are present in any humanitarian response, and it equips the participants and the students to be able to deal or manage these challenges, and even tells them when to say no or when to stop a humanitarian response simply because of safety issues or different aspects. So I think this set of characteristics makes the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma that is offered by GHI at AUB one unique type of diploma.
Okay. So speaking of when you said the disasters that are surrounding us, the crisis that we are living now, do you think that people from different backgrounds, from different fields of education, can actually take this diploma? Can it can it take them to any other level? Simplify the questions. How can people from different backgrounds and occupations benefit from the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma?
So let me start by saying being a humanitarian worker doesn't request a specific background. You can be a doctor, you can be a civil engineer, you can be a teacher, you can be a public health specialist, you can be a social worker, you can be a psychologist, you can come from any educational background and yet be a humanitarian. Because we know that the humanitarian needs when responding to any crisis or disaster are so diverse, and you need people from different backgrounds in order to be able to respond. What the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma does is that it offers or it builds on your previous knowledge, and it adds this, as I mentioned earlier, this set of skills, knowledge, and attitudes that allow you to make use of whatever professional experience and professional academic background that you have in order to be able to respond adequately. So it acts like a bridge that closes the gap between what you learn in the academic setting or in your professional setting and whatever else is still needed in order to work in a humanitarian setting. So let me give an example. If I'm a civil engineer who has been working in a construction company for a few years, and I want to start responding for a crisis like Beirut port explosion and work in a shelter response. My professional and academic background are not enough to allow me to be able to respond to a humanitarian setting because I have the technical skills. However, I don't know how to deal with a disaster setting, how to consider the community-based approach, how to work in a people-centered approach. So having this additional diploma or taking the additional courses that are offered by this diploma actually bridges this gaps and allow a doctor who has been working for years in a hospital to be actually responding to a humanitarian crisis, or a civil engineer or a psychologist.
Great. This is what I wanted to make clear. If people come from different backgrounds, for example, especially for example, the example of the engineer, how does it make it employable in the humanitarian field and then
the same applies for anyone, for example, who wants to work in a water sanitation and hygiene program, WASH program.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you're a mechanical engineer, for example, and you want to work in a WASH project, which is pure hard wash activities, you will need this knowledge of the humanitarian word, the humanitarian setting, the humanitarian architecture in order to be able to respond.
Are the humanitarian issues discussed in the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma respond only to wars, or what do they respond to? What humanitarian issues does the diploma tackle? Is it only wars and conflicts, or what does it cover as well?
Of course not. It's again, I'm gonna be talking on about the two courses that I offer, and both courses, the humanitarian, the mediation and negotiation in a crisis setting, and disaster management leading the humanitarian response, both cover a vast range of disasters, ranging from the natural disasters such as earthquakes, floods, wildfires, and so on, all the way to man-made disasters such as explosions, mass casualty incidents, traffic incidents, wars, armed conflict. So we cover the different types of disasters, and even when covering the different types of disasters, we tackle the humanitarian needs, which aren't that different between the two types. The humanitarian needs are the basic humanitarian needs. However, the way you approach these humanitarian needs and the way you cater to these needs differs depending on the setting in which you are working in. And this is tackled in details in both these courses.
Okay, so is there a practical part in the courses, or is it only theoretical? يعني, I take whatever knowledge I have, or are the courses building skills in order to practice these skills on the field?
So I will start with the first course. For example, the mediation and negotiation in crisis setting. It actually builds a set of skills, the negotiation skills and the mediation skills. It allows it takes the participants through the process. So it explains what is mediation, what is negotiation, how does it differ. So even for those who are experts in mediation and negotiation, this doesn't mean that you can apply what you apply in corporate, you cannot apply it per se in a humanitarian setting. So it highlights the humanitarian aspect, especially that when you are negotiating in a humanitarian setting, you don't have the leverage. Sometimes you're negotiating access, sometimes you're negotiating aid, sometimes you're negotiating safety. So it covers all these different aspects. And what's nice about this specific course is that it gives a lot of examples from the region. So there are a lot of case studies, articles, and examples from the region where humanitarian negotiation and mediation has been practiced. Regarding the second course, the disaster management, this course is built so differently. So the way we covered this, we approached this course is we try to make use of as much humanitarian experts in the region as possible. So we had different leaders, humanitarian leaders in their respective fields, share their experience whenever we cover a module. So for example, when we talk about cash assistance and livelihoods, we had one of the humanitarian leaders in the region, Lama Sham'a, share her knowledge. When we talked about health, we had the delegate or the representative of the Japanese Red Cross and the health delegate of the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent, Maiky Igarashi, share her experience. When we talked, for example, about water sanitation and hygiene promotion, we had one of the WASH leaders, again in the region, then Abdel Wahed, share her experience. And these are people who have been working in this field for more than 7 to 10 years, who have been working, especially in the region, in Middle East and North Africa, who have been deployed to multiple countries and have responded to multiple disasters and have built this knowledge and experience over the years. And we tried to take these pearls that they have collected over the years from responding to different disasters and employ them and present them in the course. So the course itself has a lot of interviews to add this practical component to the course rather than just having all these theoretical aspects and standards and numbers in the course. So this adds like a touch of reality of what is it truly like to respond in a humanitarian setting.
Okay, so to talk about the diploma in general, is the diploma an advanced target, an advanced level or a beginner level?
It depends on who is, okay, it depends on why you're taking the diploma. So for someone who is very knowledgeable about the humanitarian response and they are trying to increase their knowledge in a specific field in the humanitarian setting. So for example, WASH or shelter or livelihoods, this is not the diploma to take. So no, this will not help you. If you are very familiar with the humanitarian field and you want a very specific technical training, this is not the place to go to. However, if you are a person with a strong technical or academic background in a specific field, and you are planning either to join the humanitarian field or to get a better knowledge of the humanitarian field, even if you have been working in the humanitarian field for years now, but you have been working, for example, in the WASH sector or in the ECOSEC sector, and now you might be moving to a more managerial position, then this course is there to help you get an overall understanding of the humanitarian world. So I believe it's good for both new joiners of the humanitarian field, and even for like for entry level, as well as for middle management level, because it gives this overview of the different sectors, along with a lot of managerial skills, financial skills, PMEL skills, and soft skills, as we mentioned earlier.
Okay, perfect. And does this diploma lead to employment?
Well, definitely it's an added value. For example, I'll be very honest, for me as a recruiter for several organizations, having someone who has completed a diploma such as Humanitarian Leadership Diploma would be an added value when recruiting him or her into a humanitarian response job. So definitely it's an added value.
Okay. And once all these knowledge and skills are with the humanitarian practitioner taking this course, and they are applied on the field, I want to ask you, as an instructor for 2 courses and as a humanitarian practitioner yourself, what difference on the field do you see or do you observe between someone who has taken this humanitarian leadership diploma and someone who hasn't taken the diploma?
Look, it shows, because the situation in Lebanon over the past couple of years was actually responding back to back to complex crisis situation, one crisis adding more complexity to the previous one. And we had a huge need for humanitarian practitioners. So we have been seeing more and more students graduating from their universities and then joining the humanitarian field. And Amar, it actually shows. So the main gap when it comes to working in the humanitarian field is that people lack the understanding of what humanitarian means. And they might be the best architects, they might be the best doctors, the best nurses, the best psychologists, but gaining this knowledge on how to work in a humanitarian setting, on how to perform self-care, on how to communicate with beneficiaries, on what accountability to beneficiaries means, and on how to engage the community, on always keeping in mind that it's a people-centered approach. It's what the community wants, not what you want. This is something that you don't learn in school. This is not something that you don't learn at the university. And this is something that usually takes years for you to experience and to experience firsthand before you start practicing it. Once you take this diploma, I believe you have already passed that step. You have already known what is a humanitarian response. What are the different aspects? What do we mean by complementarity? What do we mean by localization? What do we mean by adding or building back better? What do we mean by these different phrases that you keep on hearing in the humanitarian setting? And especially like when you first join the humanitarian field, there are a lot of acronyms, a lot of statements that we use. Sometimes it's overwhelming. So people start saying, oh, what is ECOSEC? What's WASH? What do we mean by Sendai framework? What is building back better? So we use these terms. Why is urban response so important? What is conflict sensitivity? What's good about this diploma is that it acts as this induction course that allows people to better understand all these different components so that you are acquainted with these phrases and with these acronyms. Once you start using what is sphere, what are the minimum standards, what is IHL. So you are acquainted with these and you can practice their use easier.
So, in your opinion, do you think that graduates from the diploma who all 8 courses of the diploma are well equipped to take immediate action onset of a disaster?
I believe they can participate in a humanitarian response under the supervision and under the coaching of experienced humanitarian practitioners. They definitely cannot lead on a humanitarian response. They definitely cannot design a humanitarian response alone. There's a lot of responsibility and accountability that goes into that, and a lot of experience. Even people who have been working in the field for a few years, they cannot do that by their own. However, they can definitely respond to any humanitarian crisis under the supervision of an experienced or under the coaching of an experienced humanitarian professional.
Great, great. These were my questions for today. Would you like to add any comments or advice to give to our listeners?
I would definitely encourage people to register for the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma. The feedback that we got from the first batch of students was excellent feedback. I mean, I'm still receiving emails up till today from people who attended the first set and the first round, and especially those who have responded to Beirut port explosion or to COVID. So we have been receiving a lot of emails saying how useful it was to attend the courses. And yeah, mainly that's it.
That's great to hear. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us on this conversation. And it was a pleasure to have this conversation with you. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you, Amar.
Our second speaker today is Afif Tabsh. Afif has more than 11 years of consulting, advising, training, and managerial experience in corporate, academic, and nonprofit sectors. He is currently an advisor at RPS MENA, a research training and consulting firm based in Beirut, serving the MENA region. Afif developed and delivered the first course of the diploma, which is Project Management in Humanitarian Settings. Welcome, Afif. It's great to have you and to have this conversation with you.
Thank you, Amar. The pleasure is mine.
Okay, so to start with, as an instructor of the first course of the diploma, what makes managing projects in crises different than managing projects in normal situations?
Great question, Amar. So in crisis, usually the things on the ground are changing rapidly. So the context is changing a lot. And we don't have time to plan months ahead and write proposals and concept notes before we go on the ground and start the interventions we need. So in times of crisis, the project management and the implementation are more or less blended together to be much more agile. And as we go to the ground and see how things are going, we collect data and we get to see what else can be done and go back to our headquarters or our offices, plan accordingly, and then come back to the ground and see how can we support and assist. And this is an ongoing kind of iterative process that will take place for as long as the crisis is going on.
Okay, so I want to ask about skills that learners obtain from the diploma. In your opinion, why do you think education on leadership and management to have skills in leadership and management in the humanitarian field is important?
The first point is that there's no major in a university, or there's very little at least, that prepares people to lead or to be in leadership positions in humanitarian settings or in humanitarian development organizations. So there's a lot of work, there are a lot of organizations, a lot of different projects, but there's no formal development taking place prior to that. So we might come from engineering background or sociology or political science or social work, but none of us come from or have been given proper skills and proper training and proper education on how to lead such institutions. In comparison, if you want, people have an MBA, Master's in Business Administration. So there's a whole master's of how to manage a business, but there's no such thing that is quite common, at least, or that's spread out for development and NGOs. And so since a lot of us are working in that sector, don't have the formal educational background, it's important for us to actively seek courses and diplomas and certificates that will allow us to bridge the gap between what we know and what we should know, and the skills we have and the skills we ought to have to succeed in our role in leading and managing humanitarian projects or programs or organizations.
Mm-hmm. So how can one benefit from the diploma on the personal level, the social level, and the professional level from the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma?
So the HLD, or the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma, has 8 different courses, and it covers quite a bit of different topics and skills and knowledge and tools and techniques that anyone who wants to succeed and grow in their role within the humanitarian sector ought to have. So I think on the personal level, it will definitely be an eye-opener on multiple levels, on from the different topics and the different examples and the case studies that are covered within those courses. But also on the professional level, whereby not only will they be learning the skills and getting the certificates, but also they will be preparing themselves to take on more leadership roles and bigger managerial positions within their current organization or other organizations that they might be interested to move up the ladder to. So I think it's a great investment in their personal and professional development path to get them towards where they want to be in the future.
Okay. So do you think that this diploma help in transitioning careers?
Well, it should be. I think it has a lot of the right components. It has the mix from an instructor perspective and from someone who is in the sector looking at the courses covered. I didn't work on all the courses eventually. I worked on one specifically, but I've seen the design and the structure of the overall program and the learning outcomes. I think it has a good mix. It has the right elements put together that it should make a big difference in one's career or one's professional life. So it has the right elements. Then the rest is up to the participants and how they are able to utilize what they learn in their careers.
Okay. I want to ask you about the skills and the knowledge that one can obtain from this diploma. Or actually, as a humanitarian practitioner, in your opinion, what are critical skills and knowledge that a humanitarian practitioner should have?
Yeah, so there's quite a few, but if I want to kind of distill them to the some of the most important. Actually, there's plenty of them that are essential in different contexts, but I'm pretty sure project management is on the top of the list. Anyone in the humanitarian sector needs to know how to manage a project, how to plan for it, how to collect requirements, how to understand the community needs, how to put things into a schedule, into developing the full plan of implementation. But also we need people to know how to do budgeting, how to do reporting. M&E, monitoring and evaluation, has become essential as a requirement by all donors, no matter what kind of project you're in. You need to have a good M&E framework from the beginning, so it doesn't come at the end. It's when you're designing your intervention or the projects, you need to have a strong or solid understanding of logical framework matrix. You have to understand how to do an M&E frameworks, what are the KPIs, and then moving forward into how do you communicate with all the different stakeholders internally within your team and externally, and how to mediate and kind of resolve conflicts. There's elements about leadership and how to lead people in crisis mode and humanitarian settings, where the personal impact and the kind of the vibes, if you want, of leaders in those contexts affects the morale, affects the success of multiple projects. Because when you work in a humanitarian setting, it's not la vie en rose. It is usually tough. It needs kind of mental agility. It needs resilience. It needs ability to withstand a lot of pressures and working in a weird context. And so having the right leadership skills and managerial skills all together with the project management and M&E and the technical stuff are part of what is needed to make a person succeed in that role. And I've seen those reflected in multiple types or multiple places in the courses in this diploma. So I think it's really positioned in the right place.
Great. So I want to ask about the humanitarian practitioners now. Once they take the courses, they will gain the knowledge and the skills to tackle issues in the humanitarian settings. So what difference can we see or can we observe on the field between an HLD graduate, someone who took this diploma, and a practitioner that hasn't taken the diploma?
What we hope or we aspire to see is probably someone who's behaving in a more professional manner, someone who's more aware of their context and how to communicate and how to lead others. They are capable of putting together better plans and better implementations. Now, that doesn't mean people who are not graduates of this diploma cannot be or operate at that level of professionalism, but it is something that we would say what is the minimum required from the graduates of this program is to have those. So this is a minimum requirement, you might say, that someone who's graduated from this diploma, who actually went through the whole experience, should be able to do all of those professionally.
Okay, so in your opinion, what do you think sets HLD apart from other certificates and diploma? What makes it so special and unique?
At the time being, I think the fact, and there's multiple things, but one, the fact that it is done through an institution like AUB, and the AUB's credibility and the educational clout that it brings. Second, GHI's experience and expansion in the past couple of years and how it actually works on training and development in the sector. The third, that it is an online program, and now everyone is transitioning more and more online. And the third, that it is asynchronous to a big extent, which means people can take it at their own time and at their own pace and wherever they are located. So that's another factor. And the fifth and last and most important, I believe, is that it got experts from the local community here in Lebanon and the region, rather than people who bring in examples from the UK or the States, even if they're good and valid, but they are not contextualized. So they haven't been here in the context in the MENA region. They haven't seen things happening in Lebanon to build their experiences on them. So one of the key advantages here, I believe, that the program has, or this diploma has, is that the experts are from the local market, from the community itself, who have not just been preaching or educationally or talking about it academically, but they have been living the process. They've implemented projects, they've done M&Es, reporting, mediations, and whatnot. So they're bringing in real life examples from the current context to the participants to build on.
Great. That's it from my side for today. I would like to thank you for your time and to thank you for joining us on this conversation. Would you like to add any comments or advice to our listeners?
I just wish you all the luck. And for those who are thinking of taking one course, I would say that I strongly encourage you to reconsider and take the whole diploma. It has much more weight when you have a diploma from AUB or an institution than just one course, even if though one course is definitely valid and it's valuable if you focus on one specific thing, but a whole diploma takes you to a whole different level. So buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Thank you so much, Afif. Thank you for your time. Bye. Our third speaker is Dr. Cosette Maiky. Dr. Maiky has 15 years of hands-on experience on governance issues in more than 20 conflict and post-conflict settings in the MENA region, Central Europe, East and Southeast Asia. Dr. Maiky developed and delivered course number 7 of the diploma, which is Fundamentals of Humanitarian Action and Practice. It's a pleasure to have you with us today, Doctor. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so Doctor, to start our conversation, I want to ask you about the diploma itself, the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma. How can it benefit the learner on the personal and the professional levels?
Okay, so I believe on the personal level, it greatly helps learners take control over the personal bias that might be generated by their subjective perception of crisis, of conflict, and interfere consequently with their level of professionalism in the field. When it comes to the professional level, I believe The diploma greatly helps learners acquire the range of skills and competencies that are needed to deliver in a neutral, impartial way in any humanitarian context.
Okay, so I want to ask specifically about the course that you delivered that covers international humanitarian law and international human rights law. I want to ask you, where do these laws apply in general settings or crisis settings?
Okay, so the IHL, which stands for International Humanitarian Law, applies in conflict settings, in armed conflict settings, whereas the International Human Rights Law applies anytime and anywhere. The course, developed under the umbrella of the diploma, provides an opportunity to compare the application of IHL versus IHRL through the basic principles, through the impact, looking at the impact of both IHL, IHRL, but also considering the challenges of application in practice.
Speaking of application of IHL and IHRL, do you think that graduates of the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma are well equipped to tackle the issues, the disaster crises, the disaster settings and crisis settings on set?
The short answer is no, because over the past decade, evidence has shown that intervention in crisis settings requires a wide array of knowledge, competencies, and skills from different areas of intervention, such as social sciences, humanities, law, medicine, and so many others. Eventually, graduates from one school or the other might not have the full spectrum of skills and competencies needed to intervene in a humanitarian or a crisis settings. And this is what the leadership diploma addressed.
And do you think that this diploma leads to employment?
It doesn't necessarily lead to employment, but it greatly helps learners acquire skills and competencies needed to compete on any opportunity.
In terms of the skills and the knowledge acquired from the diploma, what difference on the field do you think can be observed between a graduate that took the diploma and a humanitarian practitioner that hasn't taken the diploma?
The way it was designed, the diploma provides the learner with a huge number of exercises, simulations designed from different contexts, which provide them with the opportunity to apply what they acquired in different contexts, sometimes from their own countries, sometimes from faraway regions, which provides them with enough ability to hit the field with context-specific approaches, context-sensitive approaches required to make a difference if they are compared to any other graduates.
That was great, and it was great chatting with you, Dr. Maiky. Thank you for your time, and thank you for having this conversation with us.
Thank you so much, Amar. Thank you to GHI for the opportunity to contribute to the course, through the course of IHL. I believe every learner will benefit from the entire diploma, whether one course or more, because any context-specific, context-sensitive diploma, such as the one provided by or through GHI, will definitely make a difference in the career of the learner, but also in the field where it is much needed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good day, Doctor. Our fourth and last speaker today is Zahi Chahine. As head of the Disaster Risk Management Unit at the Presidency of the Council of Ministers, Zahi is spearheading national efforts to enhance Lebanon's resilience to withstand natural and man-made disasters. Zahi developed and delivered the last course of the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma, which is Humanitarian Leadership and Coordination. Zahi, it's a pleasure to have you with us on this conversation.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, Amar. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. I have my first question to you as the instructor of Humanitarian Leadership and Coordination. Since the diploma is entitled Humanitarian Leadership and Coordination and the course is Leadership and Coordination, in your opinion, how can you see one can benefit from the diploma on the personal and the professional levels?
Actually, this diploma is an added value on all three levels: personal, social, and professional level. On the personal level, it gets the student acquainted with the humanitarian sector, its importance, especially in the times of crisis. All countries and the world is living nowadays. The course dwells into the historic perspective of humanitarian action and the role of each person what the role each person plays in this regard, especially those working in this sector specifically. On the social level, Lebanon and all countries in the area are going through a lot of turbulent times, and where the state and the governments fail to provide even the most basic services and needs, and non-governmental organizations, INGOs and NGOs, are playing a vital role in the response for the crisis and those disasters. As such, the course gives the student an overview on how this sector function and what's the principles and the objective to ensure efficiency and impact. On the professional level, the course is a must for anyone who wants to work in the humanitarian field.
Mm-hmm.
As it gives you a general perspective of the sector, starting with the moves of the major international agendas, especially in the Sustainable Development Goals, the Hugo Framework of Action, then the Sendai Framework of Action, passing through the Paris Agreement for Climate Change. The course also gives the students the core principles of humanitarian standards and cycle. All of this meant on and the knowledge and skill of anyone wishing to work in the field.
Great, that's great. And what do you think sets the Humanitarian Leadership Diploma apart from any other certificate or diploma?
The course is comprehensive and encompasses major theories, trends, and actual case studies. The course includes exercises to put into practice what students learn, and includes supporting material that the student can come back when needed, when needed. The course was developed by experts and professionals in the field, having years of experience and best practices to share. The certificate is provided by one of the most prestigious universities in the Arab region and number of the universities in Lebanon, and that's why it's always I'm always honored to be a part of NGOI at AUB. So I think that's more than enough.
It's our pleasure to have you on board always. Can students or professionals from any field or any level of education take it? For example, can a person with a background of civil engineer, for example, take the courses of the diploma?
Yes, Amar, both students and professionals can take the from any field or even any level can take the course. It is designed in a way to encompasses all main topics, like in general, to start with the general themes and moves to more complex subjects. It's simplified and gives examples and case studies and includes supporting material to come back to. So like in a way, you know, even if you come from different levels, it's the way you look at things in the course will be different, but it will be an added value for both professional and students.
And at the end of the day, taking this diploma, does it lead to employment?
Not, I can never say that, but it's always an asset. It's always an added value on your CV for your knowledge that will lead. So if you put this into place, it will lead somehow to employment by developing and by improving your CV and knowledge about the field.
Okay, and speaking of the different levels, is it only targeted for an advanced level, or it's also beginner level?
This diploma is, I'll put it as a medium level, so neither a beginner or advanced. So that's why it's somewhere where you need to have at least the basic understanding of the humanitarian field, and we all know it. We see it in the news. We see it everywhere. We read about it. We have friends in international organizations, NGOs, so we know what they do. And you don't need to be too advanced in understanding what they're doing. So it's somewhere in the middle.
Okay. And in your opinion, what difference on the field can be observed between someone who has taken the diploma and who is an HLD graduate and another humanitarian practitioner that hasn't taken the diploma? What can we see the difference between two of them on the field?
Both are important and complementary. Taking the diploma without practice will remain just theoretical, and having an understanding and knowledge of the topic while the field is putting into practice these principles and guiding tools. So I'll just put it in a way, it's complementary, and you have to understand that you have to go through the course and then actually go to the field and implement and practice what you learn, so you don't just get stuck in the theoretical part.
So we have actually a practical part to do. It's not only theoretical, there is a practical part to implement the knowledge.
When we say humanitarian, it can never be just theoretical.
Okay, I see. That was it for today. It was a very short conversation to take your insight on this diploma. It was great talking to you. It's been a while since the last time we talked, and it's, as I always say, it's always a pleasure to have you with us, Zahi. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Omar.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.